Okay, we are recording. Welcome, everyone. I am Jason.Haverfield with HaveTravel-Memories Vacations, and joined with me today is Jelaine, also from HaveTravel-Memories, and this is Shannon Pickens from Boots to Journeys Travel. And we would like to do a presentation on our trip to Israel, the Holy Land Classic Tour. The four of us, including Michael, Shannon's husband, we met in Israel last December of 2022 on a familiarization trip where we went as travel agents. And we experienced this Holy Land Classic Tour last December, had an incredible time. We met there and also discovered that we wanted to go at the same time this year, which is December 5th. And so what we would like to do is do a little presentation of our journey to the Holy Land. And we'll go through and show you some pictures and show you a little bit of our experience, talk about it, try to answer some questions that we had before we went on this trip to Israel. There were some things that we didn't quite have answers to, but we do now. So we just want to share that and give everybody an idea of what this trip will look like. And we'll go through some specifics on what you can do to be able to join us December 5th through the 14th of 2023. So welcome, Jelaine, and welcome, Shannon.
Thanks you. For being here. Hi.
All right, so let's just get into this. We're just going to run through these slides and take a look at our trip and talk about some various things. We'll move through this kind of quickly, so if anybody wants to go back and look at pictures or replay something, you'll be able to do that. Let's get started here. So we are traveling with a company called ETS, Educational Tours, and this is a faith-based travel company. They've been around for over 45 years. They do faith-based travel in many places around the world. The Holy Land, Israel, is obviously probably the biggest and the most popular, but they have a lot of different excursions to some amazing areas around the world, including Egypt and Ireland and various places that you can explore. They also do cruises as well. But we're going to focus on this Holy Land Classic Tour. They have people that live in Israel and that are very well trained. And in fact, the guide that we had was a man named Salah, and he was from this region and went to school to be a travel specialist and was absolutely amazing. And so we had just a great experience. But that's the company. They're based in Florida, and they basically they own a couple of hotels down there that we'll talk about, and they send a lot of people to the Holy Land. So that is basically who's helping taking care of us. But as your travel agents, you will book this tour with us, and we'll get you set up, and we'll all be together on this tour in December. Just a basic idea of the itinerary. This is a picture of the airport in Tel Aviv where we'll fly into. The tour for us is set up to fly out of JFK, but if you want to go out of a different airport, that can be arranged. Yeah. So that's something that you can ask about. But the all-inclusive price will includes New York to Tel Aviv. So you can see it's a 10-day tour. You can get an idea of what the itinerary is, the different places that we see. We'll show you some pictures of most of these places. We're not going to be able to highlight all the things that we saw. There was just way too many things that we experienced, but this is a basic idea of what the itinerary will look like. We do have a digital brochure, things that you can download yourself for more details, and we'll share that with you. So one of the things that we were talking about is where do we stay? There are 2 hotels that you will stay in on this trip, which is great. You'll start up in the Galilee in a town called Tiberias, which is right on the shore of the Galilee. And that is the Cesar Hotel. And that's what it looks like. In fact, that's what the tour bus looks like right there at the hotel. And so we'll spend, what was it, 2.5, 3 days, would you say?
Yeah, I think it was 2.5 days.
2.5 days. And saw just amazing things up there and loved it. It was incredible. We'll take a peek at what some of the things that we saw, and then we went down and stayed in Jerusalem. So one of the things I wanted to know was what kind of power adapter. This is what it looks like. So this is one of my first trips overseas. So I had a power adapter there. One of the places that we saw in the first few days was the Mount of Beatitudes, and that is actually a picture of our group there on the right and our tour guide Salah. And so we read from Matthew chapter 5 and the Sermon on the Mount. And on the left there is a is an Italian church that's built there at the traditional site of where the Sermon on the Mount was. And the Mount of Beatitudes looks over the Galilee. So that was awesome. Any particular thoughts that you two have on being there on the Mount?
When we first got there, I didn't realize how rocky the terrain was and things like that. So it made me think a lot about, what was Jesus and the disciples dealing with as they walked all the time? What was it like for them? So it gave just a little more in-depth and insight into their experience.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And, it's just a eye-opening experience to be able to sit in the same places and walk the same roads that Jesus and his disciples were able to walk.
Yeah, it was great. And one thing I'll mention here is that this is a pretty non-denominational trip. There are a lot of religions that do their own tours, including our church that does its own tours. But being a part of ETS and going there with the group that we did, we were all from different churches, which I think is just awesome. And but it was very Christ-centered. I would say everybody in our trip on this one was Christian, but it can cater to both. In fact, one of the guys that we'll talk about later, Stephen Franco, he's a friend of ours. He is Jewish, and he will be joining us on this trip. But most of the places that we saw, we were there for the experience of following in the footsteps of the Savior, and just meeting people with different backgrounds and from different churches was really fun. I thought that was a great way to experience the Holy Land. So. Again, picture the buses, air-conditioned buses. They're quite nice. We will try to keep our tour to about 30, which is what the amount that we'll need for our own individual group. If not that many of us are going together, then we might be combined with another group. Hopefully, they like to keep the buses around 30. It keeps it comfortable and can spread out just a little bit. But the buses were very comfortable. So that was one of the things that I was kind of curious about. There's on the left, that's me on the Mount of Beatitudes overlooking the Galilee. And then later, I believe it was that day, we went down on a boat and went out on the Galilee, which is pictured there on the right, and looking back towards land there. That was it was incredible. It was very exciting to be out on the Sea of Galilee. In fact, there's a picture of our group there. Shannon, this is probably bringing back memories.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is one of my favorite things that we did, because just being there on the sea, and we had a time of worship and a time of praise, and I mean, it was just an awesome experience.
Yeah, they're very good at allowing us time if we have a pastor or any type of religious leader or anybody that wants to have a little bit of a devotional and share a scripture or bear a testimony. Those opportunities are going to be fairly frequent, and we actually had that opportunity on the tour boat here. On the right there is one of the churches there. It's called the Church of the Loaves and the Fishes, and we actually got to go down into the water and experience the water and learn about what took place in this traditional site. In fact, here's another picture of it. Really a neat little church there. On the right is believed to be the possible traditional spot where Christ had the loaves and the fishes brought, and where those were distributed and divided. I don't know that we can say that's exactly where it happened, but most of the places that we will tour here have been set up and protected since the Crusades, and these sites have obviously a lot of very historical and religious significance. So what has been preserved there for us to see these traditional sites all over the Holy Land look a lot like this. And so the feeling that you get there of just being in Israel and seeing these sites is amazing, and to put our eyes upon things that we've read about since Sunday school is really something. Here's the Capernaum, the town of Jesus, that we toured. Very exciting, very interesting. This was amazing, because this is a place we know that the Savior spent quite a bit of time, and lived there for a period of time and traveled back and forth from Capernaum and called many of his disciples from this area. And so I was definitely very excited to see Capernaum. It's one of the synagogues there. We stood in there and had a devotional, and we would learn learn from the scriptures, and there'd usually be a speaker that would address us, and so we get to kind of have that experience right there. Anything that stands out about Capernaum to you two?
Our tour guide explained to us that, as you'll see in the picture, that part of it was for the men, another part of it was for the women, and you can see the ruins from when it was first built to when it was rebuilt. So it's really fun to kind of get the architecture and understand it a little bit better. Why were the men and women separated? What were their beliefs on that? So,
yeah. And the other thing too is when you arrive there, you will see other tour groups having devotion, and that's a really neat experience. Because at first you think, well, maybe you're the only one that's going to be going there, but you will see all kinds of other tour groups experiencing the same thing.
Yeah. In fact, there's a couple of groups that were near. So you're right. You do get to be around a few different groups and meet a lot of different people from around the world. Jelaine will talk about this. This is Magdala. This is right there right on the Sea of Galilee. And this actually only in the last few years has this been discovered and excavated. So this is actually a very new site. And this really reached Jelaine. And she'll talk about that. But you can kind of see on the right there is one of the homes this has been buried for many years, and you can see some of the tile and how their homes were decorated, and just incredible. And like I said, just in the last 3 or 4 years, this was excavated. Jelaine, I know you had something you wanted to mention about Magdala.
I was just going to mention that this was my favorite site for the ruins because it was so new. It was much less touristy. And I really enjoyed the mosaics that you'll see there on the floor. So those were like individual, like little tiles about that size, all put together. And so it was just amazing to see their architecture and that these have survived. So, and Magdala just, like I said, it was just less touched. It was really just brought it home to me.
Yeah, and what's amazing too is that they're continuing to find these different sites. You hear about them and all that, but they're just continuing to find out more details and digging up more and more different sites.
Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty more that still has not been discovered yet, which is pretty exciting. They were explaining they got to go through a very rigorous process of, a lot of permissions and red tape that they go through and get special permissions to do certain excavations in certain area. And they were allowed to, do that. And this is right off the road too. So this has just been there for so long and nobody actually knew about it till just a few years ago. So yeah, they're continuing to discover more things here.
And our guide was telling us that it's difficult to build there because every time they dig, if they find any ruins, they have to stop and turn it over to the architecture.
Yeah, I believe Magdala, they said, was there were some I want to call them vacation homes, but there was some vacation type property, and they were going to take those out and they were going to build a new facility. And actually, that's how they discovered that some of this was actually there. So that's continuing to take place over there. While we're up north, this is Yardenit. This is the Jordan River baptism site. You can see that the water is nice and pretty and clean here. This is up by the Galilee. This is not the site where Christ was baptized by John the Baptist, because that is down south by the Dead Sea, and the water is very brown down there. And so to have that baptism experience, this is a really neat facility that they have. All the tours will stop there. In fact, you can see Shannon and her husband out there in the water. And what was that experience like for you, Shannon?
It was cold.
It was cold.
It was really a neat experience. And to have my husband to baptize me, and then because we didn't have a priest with us and he had been a deacon in the church, then he was able to do that. And so he baptized a few other people also that were in our tour. And then I wound up baptizing him. So, but it was just a neat experience to be able to experience that. Make sure that you pack your bathing suit if you're going to do this. So, and they also, you can bring a towel with you, or you can get a towel there at the site.
Right. And there was a small fee that you pay if you wanted to do this. There was obviously the changing room and those robes. But yeah, pack that. And then I don't remember what the fee was, but so if that is something, a lot of people, when they go experience the Holy Land, that they want to have this experience in the River Jordan. I remember I bought a neat little bottle and went down and filled it and brought some water back from the River Jordan. So there's definitely that opportunity is there. Another place that we saw is the Jezreel Valley, the traditional place of Armageddon, and the Tel Megiddo. And we learn about this Tel and the different civilizations that have risen on this hill, and the various different civilizations that fought and built and were destroyed, and another one came in and built and was destroyed. I mean, the history is absolutely incredible. And so on the left there, Jelane's looking out a little bit of a vantage point. That's the Jezreel Valley, and which will be the site of Armageddon. And on the right there is just one of the areas on the Tel. So if you've done any studying about Tel Megiddo, the prophecy of Armageddon, it's, you get to actually be there in that amazing valley and experience that. And you can see why this particular Tel was fought over and destroyed and rebuilt and destroyed so many times because of its strategic location there in the valley. So this was one thing I remember being very excited to see, was the Jezreel Valley and Tel Megiddo. So again, the things that you'll experience on this tour, the technology that they use when you go into the visitor center, and they use some pretty neat technology to kind of explain to you, and with models and maps and digital layouts, that kind of thing, that give you some history for just a few minutes about what you're experiencing and what's there. So they do a really good job, and all of these sites, by the way, are paid for. And when our guides take us there, they go in, they get the tickets, and we're all brought through as a tour group. So every place that we go, you have to get tickets for and tour, just like a lot of places here in the States. But our guide takes care of all of that. So we just enjoy our time on the bus, and are taken to these various sites and get to experience and learn. We do have earpieces, so you have a little pack that you wear on a lanyard, and you've got an earpiece, and you leave that in your ear. You can see it in Jelane's right ear there, and you can hear the tour guide. And so you can be walking around, and you don't have to stand in a close circle and listen. So a lot of people, I'm sure, have experienced that. Yeah, that was amazing. Another picture, there's kind of an aerial view of the Jezreel Valley. That's, just like I said, just amazing and beautiful. We saw Qumran and Jericho, the place of the Dead Sea Scrolls there in Qumran, and we learned quite a bit about that and some of those ancient records that were found there. This is down by the Dead Sea now, so we're a little bit further south in Qumran. On the right there is the Mount of Temptation and Jericho, and that was, I didn't realize that they were actually the Mount of Temptation there and Jericho were so close together. But let's see if I got another slide here. There's an idea of what the Dead Sea Scrolls may have looked like when they were found in the clay pots. And on the right, there's a picture of basically where all the caves are, overlooking the Dead Sea out there in the distance. Any thoughts on these two areas before we move on?
No, like I said, the landscape was a big thing to me. But as you read in the scriptures, they started out in this place. They went from Bethany to Jerusalem to these things. So it was interesting to see the distance. Like you said, you didn't understand the Mount of Temptations was so close to Jericho. So when it's talking about Jesus walking from one place to another, it kind of gives you a little bit better understanding of, what did it take for him to get there? or, maybe that was just a quick little, half-day hike for him. Other times it's going to take him 2, 3, 4 days to make that walk. So it was nice just to put it into perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, here's some other pictures there. On the right, that is where Jericho was and what's left of it. If you read in Joshua there about how those walls came down, it was intended that this was going to be destroyed and not rebuilt. And that's what it looks like today. It's hard to tell what was there. But to actually stand there and see some areas where they have excavated, to see some of the remains of the wall is pretty incredible. There's the spring of Elisha there on the left, and Jericho, the oldest city of the world. Yeah. So just to give you an idea, on a daily basis, when we would be out touring and going through our schedule, there'd be places that we would stop and eat. Lunch is basically paid for by us, but your breakfast and dinners at the hotels are covered, and we'll look at that here in a little bit. But I was curious too, what are our afternoon meals like? And so we would have a chance that they'd have these places ready for us, and we would go in and order and sit together and eat together. And what did you think about the food overall? Both of you, any thoughts on the food in general?
I thought it was very good. As I was saying earlier, I'm a pretty picky eater, and I am not one that will try a lot of new stuff, but I really enjoyed the food, and it's huge.
Yeah, we didn't go hungry, that's for sure.
No.
But I love the hummus and those kind of things, so this was right up my alley.
Yeah, it was good. Speaking of food, I think I was along that theme there. This is a picture of us at one of the hotels, and just kind of what our food spread looked like. It was very nice, very, very nicely done. And like Jelaine said, there's plenty of food to eat. When we're down in Jerusalem, and I'll show pictures of that hotel, I mean, you're within walking distance of many places too. So you're not just, don't have to just stay with what the hotel provides, but just to give you a basic idea of what that looks like. Now we're down in Jerusalem. In fact, there is the Olive Tree Hotel right there on the right. And ETS Travel has, I believe they own it. And so they have certainly our room set up and ready to go. So we remember there's a picture of the hotel in the evening. And then one of the first things we did in Jerusalem was went to the Mount of Olives, which is pictured there on the left, which I was really excited to see. Those famous scenes of Jerusalem. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and another question that I normally get is luggage. Once you get to these hotels, you don't really have to worry about your luggage. Somebody will bring the luggage up to you and put it outside your door and all. And so, you don't have to worry about dragging it up through the elevators and all that. Somebody takes care of all of that for you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. The whole time we're
cruise.
Yeah, similar to a cruise. Yeah, so you don't do a lot of packing up your suitcase and moving. There are 2 hotels, and it was very convenient and very easy. We did everything from 2 hotels, and so you've got yourself set up in your room, and you're back and forth. And they're long days. We usually meet between 7 and 8 in the morning, and we get back between 4 and 5, and then you'd have the evening to relax or to do some more touring. So you sometimes yourself, whatever you wanted to do. So it's very well balanced. It is, it's a packed itinerary. You're busy. You get a lot out of this 10 days, which is, you're traveling quite a ways to experience this. So that's definitely what you want. Just an idea of what the hotel rooms look like. This is the Olive Tree, and very comfortable, very nice. No issues there at all. And then we start experiencing Jerusalem for a few days. And like I said, there on the left is the Mount of Olives. And you can see Mount Moriah there in the background. And on the right is coming off of the Mount of Olives, going, looking towards Jerusalem. And so we got to experience all that. Just to be there and to be that close and to be guided on a tour there was just amazing. We go down into the Garden of Gethsemane, and that is the church that is built there right at Gethsemane and next to the garden, which you can see on the right. Certainly one of the highlights, and one of the things that was at the top of my list to see. Looking inside the church, there on the left is the traditional spot where the rock was that the Savior, experienced the atonement there, and so that definitely a very it's hard to describe the feeling that you have being there, but you get time to go into this church, and you can have a little alone time and sit there and just kind of just take it in, and experience it, and to be right there at this incredibly important spot in the Holy Land. Yeah. Some more pictures there. You can see some of these trees, like that one on the left. I mean, do you remember how old they said some of those trees were? Jillian, do you remember?
I'd have to look it up, but they were hundreds and hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have one thing I have. There's in the garden, there's 13 trees, and the last one was 57 years ago by the Pope. And it says I put the oldest is 3,000 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought there were some that were,
So
at least that old. That's amazing. So, yeah, just incredible experience to be there at Gethsemane. We basically, from the Mount of Olives, we walked the path of the palms, right, and followed the path that the Savior would have been on the donkey on Palm Sunday, and so we kind of get to experience that as we walked from the top of from that vantage point on the Mount of Olives, and then down to Gethsemane, and then we make our way over into the city of Jerusalem. One of the days that we were in Jerusalem, we start at the Western Wall, one of the most holy Jewish sites in the world, and people are familiar with. In fact, that's Michael there on the right. Michael and I went down. If you want, you can go down. Obviously the men and the women are going there on separate sides, and that's Shannon's husband there. Michael and I went down, and you put on is it the yarmulke that you put on your head there, and went down to the wall, and we're among the people that were down there praying, and amazing experience to be there. Then we are taken to some of the various ruins and sites of Jerusalem, and this is one of the main entrances there on the left. That one of the main entrances to the city that looks a little different now, but you can get an idea of what it looked like in that city. There's Jelaine reaching the stones. I think that stone on the bottom was back in the period of Herod, right?
Yeah, it's the Herodian stones.
Yeah. So the original stones, and then as Jerusalem is rebuilt, the stones look different and weren't as large as they go up. Again, on the right there are some columns that are left over and are still there. That's looking towards the Mount of Olives. As we're traveling around and walking through Jerusalem, this is Bethesda, where the pools of Bethesda were, and you read about in John 5. So you get to be there and see what that looked like. Amazing. And then we begin the Via Dolorosa, the path of Jesus, and we start at the different stations, and it's pretty neat how they have this set up there in Jerusalem. They have these different stations that would have been were various events during the time leading up to the crucifixion took place, his trial and the bearing of the cross and that kind of thing. So we stop and learn at these various stations along the Via Dolorosa. Just incredible. These are what some of the station markers look like that one on the right. These are up on the wall, and it tells you what number station that is, and so you'll follow these all the way through the path.
And this is all through the old city that
yeah.
path is, and the hotel is close enough to the old city that you can walk up there in the evening and experience it yourself if you'd like.
Yeah, the Olive Tree Hotel was probably about 15 minutes walk from the Olive Tree and to the Damascus Gate. And so and this might be a place to talk about safety. I know Shannon had a few things to say about feeling safe while we were traveling there. Didn't have any concerns whatsoever. And we talked to the hotel and they said, yeah, just, if you happen to see something that might be occurring that doesn't look like something, if there's some kind of unrest or something, just turn around and come back. But other than that, we felt very safe. The streets were busy, and there's a lot of shops and restaurants and things that you'll pass on your walk there. So we went to the Damascus Gate a couple of times, which is one of the closest main entrances to the Olive Tree Hotel. But I know, Shannon, you said that's a question that you get a lot. People are concerned about, am I going to feel safe? Is it safe to be there?
Right. Yeah, I did that question, and I mean, I did not feel threatened, did not feel unsafe at all. I mean, it was just a wonderful experience. The people were pretty friendly and all that. And, the only thing you really have to watch out for is cars going down the road when you're crossing the road. But other than that, they, because, here in America, you stop at a crosswalk there, they just keep going. So you just have to be on the lookout for that. But other than that, I mean, everything else was pretty safe and clean.
Yeah. No, it was great. We didn't have any concerns whatsoever. ETS is very good about taking care of us that way. And they do these tours all throughout the year. And if anything, that we need to know, or if anything was to occur, ETS would be right there to take care of us and make sure that any issues were handled. Yeah. Okay, so just hit a few other highlights that we see on this 10-day journey. This is down south. This is Masada, which you're familiar with, which is that ancient mountain fortress. Incredible history and the things that occurred here at Masada. So we went up, you take this big gondola and you go to the top of this mountain, this fortress that's built up there, and you learn about the history of Masada. Just definitely a highlight. This is actually an optional day. You can actually go to Masada, or you could just stay in Jerusalem. So you didn't have to go to the Dead Sea in Masada that day if you didn't want to. But it's incredible, some of the different things you see. And then here is the Dead Sea, one of the places that we saw and got to swim and experience. That salt water was incredible. I mean, you hear about the Dead Sea, but you don't realize just how just how dead it is. I mean, the water was so salty that had an oily feel to it, and the buoyancy is incredible. I mean, you hear about how much you float, but until you get in there and experience it, I mean, I highly recommend that you do. In fact, that's Jelaine out there in the middle swimming in the sea.
Yeah, once you lay back there, you cannot keep your feet down. So, yeah, and it really feels just oily on your skin. It's completely different. I don't know if you could even explain it if you tried until you experience it. No. But it's a lot of fun.
No. Well, I wrote down in my notes, the Dead Sea is 10 times salt and 30% salt. So nothing lives in it. And you cannot, all you can do is float and all. And that it's, is shrinking. I put that it's shrinking. They lose 6 feet of water every year.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, that's incredible. They've got a really nice facility there. They've got bath salts and all kinds of neat things that you can buy and take home with you. Obviously, this is the swimming area, but very well done, very comfortable. A lot of people would do the whole mud pack where you pull the mud out of the water and treat your skin with it. So that was a fun day.
Happening.
Yeah, some people really were into that, but so. If you don't want to get in the water, obviously you don't have to, but going out and experiencing and being there at the Dead Sea was pretty neat. And to think about the significance of the Dead Sea and how all this kind of relates to the whole region and the times that are coming and the things that we learn about and read about. It's incredible to be there and actually experience this in person. So I look forward to seeing the Dead Sea. So we basically kind of wrap up our tour of the Holy Land in the appropriate place, which is in Calvary and at the Garden Tomb. Again, I didn't realize how close these both were. I mean, I knew they probably weren't very far apart, but on the right there is Golgotha, the place of the skull. It's harder to see the skull nowadays, but I'll show. I think I have an old picture in here, but it's over here. But this is the spot where many Christians believe that the Savior was crucified, up here. And there is another traditional place that's in the city, and you will see that and tour that in that very famous large church. So there are a couple of traditional sites. So we do get to experience that in Jerusalem. And then from Golgotha, we see the tomb here, which we'll take a look at. Let's see. There we go. Skip. So there's the Garden Tomb, and that probably looks familiar to a lot of people, and absolutely incredible. Here's a picture of the inside of it, and you don't get a lot of time in there. There's a lot of people trying to get in and take a look, but we do spend a little bit of time here at the Garden Tomb, and then this garden, which is, like I said, it's very close to Golgotha, but incredible. Obviously one of the highlights of this trip. To be here at this site, just amazing. You can see this little ledge here, and then where the stone would have sat, the stone that was rolled away would have sat in this. There's a ridge here. So I mean, just everything that we've learned about and we've read about in the scriptures, to actually be there and to see it is amazing. Okay, here's a picture, and then we finish with right there in the garden. We have a sacrament communion, and in fact, that's Michael that was brave and got up and led us in our little sacrament there, and we had that experience. And this was basically an opportunity to reflect on this whole Holy Land tour experience that we had. As we if you would like, you have a chance to share some of your thoughts and feelings, bear your testimony. We partake of the sacrament together, and we do that right there next to the Garden Tomb, which was fantastic. Yeah,
this was one of my favorite times on the tour.
Yeah. We see so much, and we've packed a lot into our experience, and to kind of sit for a few minutes and reflect and kind of start to wind down as we prepare to return home. It's very, very thoughtful, the way that they have this planned out for us. And this is a great way to end our tour there. So just a few other things we want to get into. This is Stephen Franco. He is our group leader that will travel with us. He lives here in Destin. He's a friend of ours. He is Jewish himself. He's lived in Tel Aviv. He spent a lot of time over there in Israel, and like I said, just a well-known guy in this area. And we're excited to travel with him, and maybe we'll hear some things that he has to say. So that's Stephen Franco, and he'll be joining us on our tour. So some of the costs here, and the digital brochure that you will see that we will send out, it's $34.98 per person from New York. And this is the all-inclusive price. And you can see there your basic tour and guided sightseeing, round-trip international airfare, fuel surcharges, government taxes, all of that is included. Admin, entrance fees, like we talked about, all the different places you're going to see, your daily breakfast and dinner, and the buses and the transportation is covered. The extras that we are asked to pay is the gratuity and tipping, which,
and your lunches, gratuity and lunches, and then just souvenirs. Those are the main costs.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. There on the digital brochure, there is the registration page. This is the information that we need initially. Right now it is, what is today, June 16th. The deposit can be paid anytime. It's $300 per person, and that is due. I have deposit due on 8/22, but that's actually the full amount is due on August 22nd. You can pay after that, but the rate will go up a little bit, kind of on a sliding scale. So if you are interested in going on this tour with us, I would get your information to myself and to Shannon, and we will get you registered and pay your deposit, and then just by August, the final payment will be due. Yeah. There are other program conditions, fine print, that can be read there in the brochure. Just the details on the deposit. If you aren't able to go, travel protection that you can read about, and which comes out to be about $349 per person, but there's travel protection, and you can read about what that covers. And I do recommend the travel protection. I think most people are willing and are wanting to pay that ever since we've had the whole COVID experience. But so there is travel protection that can be purchased when you sign up. And finally, here's some of our contact information for myself and for Shannon and for Boots to Journeys. And there is a link that you can get the digital brochure. Shannon, do you have a digital brochure that you can send out?
I do, yeah. I'll send that out.
Okay. Let's see what else. So I'll leave some of our information there. Let's see. Yeah.
Do you have information on the optional extensions? If they wanted to add any extensions or anything like that?
Yes, good point. I did do a slide on it, but ETS does provide these optional extensions. So there are basically three. One is Cairo and the route of Exodus, and that would depart on December 14th. You go Jerusalem to Egypt. On the 15th, St. Catherine's Monastery. The 16th, the route of the Exodus. 17th, the Great Pyramids and the Sphinx. And the 18th, Cairo. And the 19th, you'd return to the U.S. And that is prices are subject to change, but that one's, I think, between $1,200 and $1,300 if you added that per person. And then the other extension is the Nile Cruise. Jerusalem to Mount Sinai, St. Catherine's Monastery, the Luxor and Karnak, valleys of the King and Queens of Esna, Edfu and Kam Ombo, Aswan and Cairo. And then the last one is the wonders of Petra and the Dead Sea. So you see Jersha, Petra, Madaba and Mount Nebo, and the last day is a free morning at the Dead Sea. And so these prices do vary. The Nile excursion, the Nile cruise is a little bit more. That's going to be over $3,000 per person. But we can get you those prices. So yeah, there are these extensions that you can add on to if you want to stay in the Holy Land just a little bit longer before the rest of us, before you come home. Yeah. But otherwise, the rest of us will be returning on the 14th. Anything that you wanted to add to those extensions, Shannon?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we wanted to try to keep this as short as we can. We're at 43 minutes already. It goes fast. I hope this gives everybody just a basic idea of what we saw, what you can expect. So many pictures. I mean, I know we all took hundreds of pictures and had incredible experiences that we wish we could take the time to share and go through. But we just wanted to kind of touch on a few of the highlights. And like I said, there's other places that we did see. We did see Bethlehem, and we saw the church and the traditional side of the birth of the Savior. We experienced Nazareth, and we're in the town of Nazareth and the boyhood home of Jesus, and we got to be in that city. Let's see, what else can you think of real quick that we didn't highlight?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think we pretty much covered it.
Yeah, I know it was a little brief. We just shared a few pictures, but I can't express how much we actually saw and took in. It was an incredible experience. it far surpassed my expectations, and I knew that it was going to be just a fun, incredible experience. But it honestly did surpass my expectations. I was very pleased with ETS, and we loved our guide Salah. In fact, we've put in a request for him, but all the guides that they have, I've heard, are phenomenal. We've sent. Our company has sent others to the Holy Land. That they did. You do not have to travel with our group. If you do want to go, we can help you travel with various groups that go throughout the year. We can help get you set up with a trip with ETS, and we have had others go on different trips that we weren't a part of. And one of our friends came back and just said she thought their guide was, you couldn't find a better guide, and she was just absolutely thrilled with him. And that's how we felt about Salah. And in fact, like I said, we liked him so much, we put in a request for him, but I know he's booked for the year, so we'll see if that actually happens. But anyway, any final thoughts? Anything else anybody would like to share about our trip to the Holy Land?
This just really brought the scriptures home. It helps you understand the scriptures better. It's just an experience that it's a once in a lifetime experience.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we were also excited to see, and they did a really good job. Our guide had just an incredible knowledge of just the politics, the area, the history, and he knew that we wanted to have that experience, especially of following in the footsteps of the Savior and being able to be in the exact places that he was, to be able to walk on the paths that he walked, whether we were on these traveling paths up near in the Galilee, or we're on the Via Dolorosa in Jerusalem. They make sure that we actually get to see and experience these sites and have this personal experience that is there for us in the Holy Land. And like I said, I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity that we had to go, and look forward to going again. We had actually we were going to go earlier in the year, but we were there in December. And we actually liked that time of year. It wasn't as busy as October and November can be, and the weather was ideal. The weather for us was very nice and dry. Sometimes it can be a little rainier that time of year, but so we decided to move the trip back to December again, and so we're departing almost the exact time that we did in 2022. And then we were thrilled to find out that Boots 2 Journeys it was going at the same time. So we're excited to get together again and to see Shannon and Michael and any friends that will go with them, and we'll join with Stephen Franco, our group leader, and those that have been signing up to go on this trip with us. So with that, thank you very much for coming on, Shannon, and for sharing some of your thoughts and being a part of this. We'll post this video and be in touch with those that have expressed interest. But again, if you would like to join us on this tour of the Holy Land, please get a hold of us. We would love to have you join us.
Well, thank you so much for letting me be on with this and sharing my thoughts.
Yeah, you bet. We really appreciate it. And maybe we'll put out some more info as we get closer. There's other things that we can do. Maybe we'll do a live stream, and we can answer questions online. But we'll do more to promote this as we get closer to December. But again, we just want to get the word out now, and people can be thinking about their deposit and the initial deadline of August 22nd for the full amount. So again, please call us, email us, and we'll be happy to share with you. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, Anna. We'll see you a little bit later. All right. Bye.